everyone. Let's get today's session started. My name is Ari. I'm the EMEA Marketing Coordinator here in EMEA and your host for today's webinar. So welcome to the eFolder Expert Series. This webinar brings together experts from the eFolder staff and our partner community for deep dive discussions on key services and technical topics. And because over the last couple of months we kept having partners approach us regarding networking tips or peer group involvement, we thought that this was just a really relevant topic for both partners and prospects alike. So today's session is all going to be about peer groups and how you can leverage them for growth. And by growth we mean both personal and business growth. All right, so before we go through the agenda, let's just cover a few housekeeping items. Today's session is being recorded, and the recorded version of the webinar will be made available on our YouTube channel. But don't worry, we'll also send out copies of the slides to everyone who registered for today's event. So just watch out for our emails later today. With over 100 people registered for today's session, I'm sure you already realized we have put everyone in listen-only mode, which means you can enjoy the audio portion of today's event either by streaming it on your computer or just by dialing in over the phone. And of course, questions are strongly encouraged. Do not hold back. As you can see, we have a special Q&A section planned for the end of today's discussion, but you may also just submit your questions as we go along, and then we'll try to address them on the fly. So today's webinar follows a logical flow, really. First, we will discuss what kinds of challenges MSPs are facing in the market today. We will then clarify what exactly peer groups are, what different kinds of communities are out there, and why it would be a good idea for MSPs to join such a community. We will then dive into a partner discussion with our guest speaker for today, whom I'd like to introduce now. So our guest speaker for today is Austin Clark. Austin is the Managing Director at Clark IT, which is a MSP business based in Scotland that provides quite a wide variety of products and services, from managed services to mobile communication, IT infrastructure, cloud solution, and so on. Austin has not only been managing Clark IT for 19 years now, but has also become part of and been active in really a great variety of peer groups and IT communities, which brings him here today. So, hi Austin, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi Ariane, and thank you very much for the invitation, and I look forward to speaking to yourself and your delegates.
Yeah, would you just like to start off by introducing your company and giving the audience a better idea of what you guys are all about?
All right, thank you. My name is Austin Clark, and as Ariane has said, I am the Managing Director of Clark Integrated Technologies. We are a full-blown managed service provider with IT. We look after our clients as an outsourced IT department for the SMB/SME sector here in Scotland. We have been on the go for 25 years. We have 25 employees, and we are heavily focused on the infrastructure side of the support for our clients. We act as basically as a partnership with our clients in delivering the IT services. So our focus is becoming part of the client's organization where they rely on us to deliver all IT support. So we deliver support desk, NOC, remote monitoring and services, and we comms, project work, hardware, software. So it's a full managed service offering that we provide to our clients. We've been on the go past 8 years as a managed service provider, and before that we came from a consultancy-based company, project-based mainly with a level of break-fix. So we've transitioned, we've done the pain, we've got the scars, we've developed our business, and now we are looking at how we can advance the company, and to do that we use peer networks.
Awesome, perfect, great transition. I'll jump in here and just start off with a topic and to discuss why peer groups are useful and what MSP pains they can help soothe. So I'm sure everyone on the line knows this much better than myself, but managing a business is hard, right? No matter if you're leading a 2-person team or you're operating as an enterprise MSP, there's always a great deal of daily challenges you have to overcome, decisions you need to make, tasks you need to keep track of. So naturally, two issues that partners tend to share with us all the time are that there's not enough time and not enough resources to dedicate to marketing, sales, dedicated admin support. All of these areas would be really worth the investment because they help you generate leads, grow your business, and develop lasting and long-term organizational paths. But because of that lack of resources, MSP owners often tend to just do it all themselves, which is understandable, but at the same time poses a couple big challenges to every business leader in the IT channel. And then sometimes, unfortunately, relationships with your vendors aren't good enough to really rely on their help with selling their products, or getting their input on figuring out a go-to marketing strategy, which again means it's all on you. And one big issue that a lot of our e-folder partners, at least, are reporting on is the challenge in hiring or identifying in the first place, and then hiring the right kinds of talent with the resources you have available. So those are all, daily challenges, daily struggles, or hurdles that you all probably had to overcome at some point, or are still figuring out how to overcome. But the good news is that peer groups can really help you lift some of that weight off your shoulders. So with that, I would just like to dive into what exactly a peer group is, so we're all on the same page. Good old definition. A peer group really is a board of like-minded advisors that is comprised of peers just like you who meet on a regular basis and share best practices, hold each other accountable, and usually peer groups consist of companies that are similar in both employee and revenue size to your business, and also relate to your specific line of industry. And because of that, a peer group provides sort of a brain trust, right, and a platform for information sharing over which you build relationships with your peer group members and share real-life best practice tips. And these best practice tips can really relate to anything regarding your business structure, how people grow their business, their personal and company goals, and their plans of moving forward. Austin, did you have anything to add to that definition of what a peer group is, and maybe also how they differ from just any business group?
I've been in both. So I've been in peer groups and I've been in business groups, and I dearly believe that peer groups have an added advantage over the business group model. The business group models are things like BNI, BNS. There'll be various business networks in many other parts of the world, and there are many people who try them, and they can be very successful, but they are also they don't give you, as in a business owner, the information which I and many of my colleagues in the peer groups are looking for. The business groups are very focused on a random group of individuals with disparate types of businesses, and more often than not, these business groups are focused on delivering new business and new business leads, and as that is very attractive to any business owner, the difference with the peer groups is that they give better counsel. And I think the one thing which I would say within the peer groups is that they give you accountability, and accountability in the fact that you have people who are in the same industry as yourself who will hold you to task and who will actually make you a better business if you choose the correct peer groups. And I think the other thing for me is that this is often a lonely business to be running, and as a business owner, having like-minded as well as people who are in the same industry as yourself to bounce ideas off, it is a very cathartic way of actually building relationships, building networks, and also building your knowledge as to what good practice may actually be.
Awesome. Yeah, really good point. Thank you. Before we go more into your experience with peer groups, I just want to give the audience a better understanding of what kinds of different communities are out there. And these names on the slide are really just a small selection of, the communities you could choose from. But we wanted to highlight a few that are rather well known in the channel. One of the most popular ones probably is the Heartland Technology Group, which is also a peer group that we at eFolder have been very involved in for a long time now. So HTG is a global community of over 450 peer group members, all IT company leaders who meet quarterly, either virtually or in person, to network and share best practices in a non-competitive environment. And what's great about HTG is that independent of where you are located, you'll be able to attend in-person meetings. So if you're based in North America, the meetings are in the US. You'll meet in the UK if you're somewhere in Europe, or in Australia if you're in the APAC region. Vendor involvement is really limited, though I did have the pleasure to attend an HTG meeting in September, just a couple weeks ago, and I was really amazed to see the cooperation between vendors and MSPs. Listening to MSP panels gave me, from a vendor perspective, a much better idea of what MSPs really need, what they're worried about, and how we can help them effectively making a difference in their companies. So I can highly recommend checking that group out if you're not part of it yet. Then we have GAP, which is Growth Achievement Partners, who are really focused on helping office equipment dealers transition to a managed service model, which might also apply to some of you guys. So if you become a member with GAP, they will ensure that you're educated on how to make that change by providing you with channel-specific perspectives, field-relevant content, specific projects that will help you achieve your MSP objectives. They cooperate with BTA, Business Technology Association, which in turn offers similar online training, legal support, industry research, and peer group memberships. Another big peer group, which some of you may be part of or have heard of at least, is Robin Robins, which is a collaboration of different peer groups with a very specific focus on marketing and ramping up your website and getting your marketing strategy off the ground and running. So in addition to annual and quarterly in-person meetings, Robin Robins peer groups also have weekly check-in calls where they report on their strategy progress to each other, and that relates to the point of accountability that Austin mentioned earlier. Because who would want to, dial in and listen to all their peers achieving their goals and growing constantly, while you're the one who has to report on, I missed the mark this week, or I didn't manage my time right, or just overestimated myself. So being held accountable and holding others accountable has a massive positive impact on how much your business will actually get out of that peer group involvement. Another big name in this group is MSP Alliance. It's one of the oldest MSP communities. Memberships are free, and in addition to online courses, consulting services, and training licenses, they also offer networking events all around the world throughout the year, so definitely worth checking out. And then something more local, because I know we have a couple of people from Europe on the line. There's a network group, which is a UK-based IT buying group with about 100 members. Again, in addition to training resources, members also have regular networking opportunities that they can take part in, and just really benefit from the localization aspect of the group, the fact that the industry knowledge is very heavily focused on the UK market. And then in addition to established peer communities, it's definitely worth getting in touch with your vendors. There are a couple of vendors who have reoccurring networking events or established peer groups. I'm sure many of you have heard of ConnectWise's annual IT Nation conference or CompTIA's quarterly user group meetings. So definitely check in with your vendor or ask your peers if they attend any of those vendor meetings. Check out any of these companies' websites to find out more about membership prices and time involvement, just to learn a little more. Austin, what kinds of peer groups are you part of or have been part of in the past?
Ariane, so I've been involved in a number of groups over the years. Been involved in, well, my starting point was I got involved in an organisation called the BNI, which was Business Network International. We still have an involvement in it. I use it as a tool to educate and to bring on new sales and new account managers. I've also been involved in BNS, SCDI, and some various other networking events, but they've all, as I said before, were business groups. The peer networking groups which I currently am involved in I'm involved in HTG, I'm involved in Network Buyer Group, I'm involved in ConnectWise, and also have an engagement with CompTIA. So they all serve different purposes, but I do find that each one of them provides something else to our business and gives us additional clarity into the marketplace.
Awesome, great, and we'll dive into that a little more specifically later on. But just generally, I want to touch upon why peer groups are so important and why they matter to us as vendors. We at eFolder are really interested in peer groups because we do a bulk of our new partner recruitment through those channels. The way we look at it is that any MSP who's engaged in a peer group really understands the need to constantly work on their business and leverage other people's knowledge to up their game. So generally speaking, being a peer group member gives you great access to both technical and business knowledge from other business owners who work just as hard as you are, trying to figure out the same challenges that you are. Of course, there's always the benefit of networking and being social with like-minded peers. Like Austin mentioned earlier, it can be quite a lonely business sometimes. And like I mentioned, vendors often use these networking opportunities not just to understand your needs a little better, but also to make sure that we're not just trying to sell you a product you don't actually need. We like to use these networking conferences to really get to know your business and, you know, implement effective changes, not redundant, you know, bills at the end of the month. Third, peer groups are a really great way to just stay up to date with market trends and challenges. MSP, or the MSP and IT channel, comes with so many fast-changing trends in technology that it's often hard to keep up to date with them, keep track of them if it's just, you know, you and your company. So being together with like-minded individuals is a really good platform to understand where market opportunities are opening up and where you can tap into a potential future gold mine. And last but not least, I'm sure that it's something that many business owners struggle with is work-life balance. How do you make time for your family, for your friends, for yourself when you're extremely busy running a company, growing a business, making sure all your employees are getting paid at the end of the month? Those can be really, really tough points to figure out, but it is important to figure it out to make sure that your business is sustainable and your private life is sustainable. And many of the MSPs and IT providers that you meet in peer groups are asking themselves exactly the same questions, appreciate external input. And depending on the peer group that you're attending, those questions and those challenges are actively being addressed as part of the business challenges that you're facing. So just to sum this up, I would say that you should look at peer group members as somewhat of a sounding board that can really help you improve your company culture and can help set both short and long-term goals. And best of all is that you get access to a group of like-minded professionals who can give you confidence that you're headed in the right direction with your business. Austin, anything to add, or maybe just to sum up what kind of benefits your company has gotten out of peer group involvement?
I think you've covered quite a lot of points there, Ariane. It certainly, for myself and for the company, it has brought many of those areas together. The common pain points has been a really useful thing. It's, as I said before, it's a lonely place running an MSP practice. It's a very honest place to be in a peer group, because over the time you will get to know your peers, and you will become, and if you work the correct groups, then you will find honesty within the room. And when you get to that point, then people will share their pain and their pain points within the business. And it has always shocked me how it's very common, the pain points through the MSP world. They're the same everywhere. People have the same pain points. It's the same thing with people. It's the same thing with process. It's the same with the sales. The same things with marketing. And it's really an honest place to be if you choose your correct group. I think one of the other points which I've noticed over the time is this leadership. Not all of us have had a classic training in becoming leaders. So how do we learn to become leaders? And peer groups are often a great place that you can hone your skills and you can grow as an individual, and often I've seen people grow as leaders within these peer groups. It's a great place to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good point. And with that, I would just like to jump right into the partner discussion, and just a reminder to everyone on the line, feel free to throw in any questions you have or any clarifications you want us to make. But first question to you is, what has been the biggest change that you've seen in your business since you've joined peer groups? Or maybe there was a specific peer group that made a big difference for your company.
For me personally, it's been HTG. HTG has changed our business beyond compare. We've delivered more accountability into our business. We have held ourselves to the fire. We've made changes in our business which are more on a long-term strategic goal. It's too easy for us to go from day to day, and this common phrase that everybody uses, which is working on the business rather than working in the business. When you can get yourself to a point where you're working on the business, which is more strategic, long-term, looking at goals, looking at aspirations for your team, for the growth of your people, and for the goals that you set yourself, that part is not an easy thing to do, and I personally find it very difficult doing it on my own. I found that once I was held accountable within my peer group, that is when I started making the changes, and those changes have shown real benefits over the past 7 years that I've been involved in HTG.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. And to what extent has that involvement just generally in peer groups grown over the years?
Well, I was, as I said, I was involved in HTG as 7 years ago. I have been involved in another 3 groups now. One is Network Buyer Group, and the other one is within ConnectWise. ConnectWise is more a service, it's more a vendor-based peer group, but the council and the education within it has been very useful to the operation of the business. I've also engaged my own people in that. The time and the effort I have prepared to put into that always pays back in dividends, and if I put in a day or 3 days within the peer group, I will find that it allows me to step back from the business. It gives me time to pull back my information myself. I can get counsel, and I can actually think away from the day-to-day running of the organization. It also has empowered my own people. I'm not here at times, I'm away at these peer groups, and what I've found is that people are actually stepping up and actually taking ownership and leadership as well. And when I come back, I've got the skills, I've also got the tools which allow me to help them to drive them forward as well.
Mm-hmm. Are there employee-specific peer groups, or do you usually invite them to HTG meetings, for example?
We do both. So as far as the HTG peer groups, my technical director and even my commercial director have joined me, and they will be coming to more of these meetings in the future. I also have joined, my service delivery manager has joined HTG with a new specific group which is around service executives. That has been very interesting because now we're now going into another layer of the business around service quality, KPIs and actions, which are now making efficiencies within the business regarding how we deliver. So by engaging further down in the business with the peer groups, we're now seeing additional benefit. It takes a leap of faith, but I believe the payback will be there in the future.
Right. And I love that you mentioned the HTG Service Executive Group. I think it's relatively young still, but very much targeted towards not business owners specifically, but their employees who are facing clients who are directly delivering services and are being held accountable on the quality of those services delivered. So that's another reason why looking into peer groups is so beneficial, because it's not just allowing you as a leader to grow, but also helps, like Austin said, helps your employees to become better at what they do and become more confident and proud about the job that they get done and the services they deliver.
Exactly.
So definitely worth checking out. How do you use what you've learned in these groups to benchmark your success as an MSP owner?
Well, I personally think it's a very important thing to be able to say whether or not you're getting it right or you're getting it wrong. So how do you find that information if you're going to get it, if you are getting it right or wrong? There is really not many places to go and actually find that information out. You can look at somebody's financial records. In the UK, we can go and do financial checks. It's harder in other parts of the world. But how do you benchmark whether or not your engineers are working at the correct level, if they're hitting the correct KPIs, if they're managing the tickets appropriately, are they managing the number of tickets per endpoint? These are all figures, these are all KPIs that we would all love to know about. So where do we find that information? And the problem is it's not easy. So the benchmarking within a peer group allows us to be honest with one another, and then we can actually place these numbers alongside one another to counsel. Now there are many tools out there we can use. We can use CSAT scores, we can use various other counsel with clients, but how do we get those actual numbers? The benchmarking helps us see whether or not we are going in the right direction or if we're off the mark. And if we're off the mark, how do we get ourselves back onto the correct path of what the true benchmark is? Now we use a few tools. One of those is Service Leadership SLI. That's for our financials. We use CSAT scores from one of our providers regarding Smileback, and we also use the tools within ConnectWise to measure ourselves against with our tickets. So benchmarking helps to keep us honest and going in the right direction.
Right. We had a few questions from the audience. First question is, what is a KPI?
Oh, sorry. I'm very bad for anagrams, but KPIs, Key Performance Indicator. The key performance indicator, they're going to be the points that actually show the inflection if you're doing it right or wrong. A good one would be percentage billable of an engineer. Can you measure and can you benchmark yourself against what the KPI of an engineer is? Now for some companies the KPI will be very high, and the next company it could be much lower. There is nothing to tell you exactly what is right for each individual business, but if you have a benchmark to work from, at least you can say, I justify my billables against that KPI. Our CSATs are a KPI, a key performance indicator. If we can say that we are keeping ourselves, our keeping ourselves true to satisfaction of our clients, then that KPI will keep us honest and make sure that we can improve. Now, one thing we did, Ariane, was we invested in CSAT, and I think that gave us a very clear indicator whether or not we were doing the job right or wrong, and that has been a big factor in us being able to alter our support desk through the KPIs, key performance indicators of our customer satisfaction, and that's made us change subtly the way that we may answer the phone, we may call back to the client, we may respond to tickets, we may put notes and information into the log. So all those things, those KPIs, are key to benchmarking yourself to get into the right path.
Great, awesome. Thanks for clarifying. Next question from the audience is, how many days a year, on average, do you spend on planning for a peer group or attending a peer group event?
That depends on the peer group. If I take, for example, ConnectWise, very little planning for me attending a ConnectWise peer group. But there may be a lot of work to be done post a meeting with ConnectWise because it gives me actions to follow. So I would attend a ConnectWise group and I would be in a theatre mode and listen, and also engage maybe as a panel, maybe as as a delegate to answer a question from to throw a question from the floor. But it may be that we will then take that back into the business, and it may be another day or 2 days after the event. As far as HTG is concerned, I would say at least a day I put in. Now, I tend to do that out with my working day, so I'll do it in the evenings, and that may be 2 or 3 hours in an evening, 3 times before I go to the meeting. I also involve my financial people, so they fill in our SLI figures, and that generally is taking about an hour of my accountancy time to do that. That's my internal financial department. So I would say at least a day before I go to an HTG meeting, I'm doing preparation.
Awesome. And next question, how do you get invited to those peer group events? Do existing members refer you, or are you looking them up online and paying for membership to attend?
Peer groups are always looking for people who are the right people, the people who will want to commit to a peer group. I don't honestly believe peer groups are right for everyone. People have to they've got to be in the right place and have the right attitude towards peering. And that's not to say it's wrong. It is just a fact. If you're not ready to be engaged with other business owners, to be cathartic, to be honest, it's probably not the right place for you. How do you get invited to this? Peer group, make yourself visible to other peer group members. If you, very often at events, they'll actually ask peer group members to stand up, or they highlight themselves, put their hands, or they will be on webinars such as this. Reach out, ask the question. Peer group members are very often the first people who want to engage other MSPs into their communities. So ask, send out an email, reach out. If you're going to be a wallflower and stand in the background, they're probably not going to notice you because there's other people who are trying to ask the question. So go and ask it. Asking does no harm.
Right. And I know you and I talked about it the other day that it is kind of counterintuitive to just walk into a room full of strangers and, take up the courage to just approach someone you've never even seen before. But again, the more you do it, the better you get at it, and the more you will get out of each and every networking event and peer group gathering.
Absolutely.
And we have another question from the audience. What makes you select one peer group over another? What selection criteria do you apply, if any?
That's a really good question, actually, because each peer group will have its own features and will have its own attraction. So, for example, Robin Robbins, some companies love marketing. And if you're really interested in marketing, you've got a great desire and a passion for it, maybe you should go for a marketing organization. And there are many out there, and there are many other conventions to go to. For example, HubSpot, which is in the US, have thousands of delegates going along to it. So go and look for these things. Go online, go and find out, go and ask your peers, go and ask other colleagues where these groups are and what how they're meeting. As far as how you choose, personally, I'm a business leader. For me, I was looking for leadership. For me, it was a matter of finding a group that was going to help me grow myself as a business owner, because I needed help. I didn't have all the answers. I was lucky I came across HTG, and HTG have very much become that part. Now the next organization may be, for example, sales. You may have an account manager who needs to grow his network, maybe needs to grow his local contact base. Well, go and look at a business group which provides somebody that. Now, the BNI for me has helped educate a number of my account managers to encourage them to be able to talk. As you can tell from me, Ariana, something I don't have a problem with. But as far as my account managers, it's a scary thing having to go and give a pitch, to go and stand in front of a client. So why not practice that each week at BNI and get more proficient at it? Learn how to network, learn how to stand in a group and go and be able to talk to people. So each peer group has its own features. Look at them carefully, evaluate and decide what you want to be able to achieve from that group and see if it fits your structure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And usually each of the groups of websites have, a couple partners or a couple members that give testimonials. So if you're unsure whether or not that specific group is the right fit for you and your business goals, then there's absolutely no harm in just trying to find these members on LinkedIn and getting in touch with them over that network, just to get more hands-on experience and more, internal insights into what those guys have gotten out of the group.
I think you've always got to remember these are all human beings. They've all come through the same pain points as the rest of us. They've grown their businesses. They've all had the same pain at some point in their organizations. You may look at them and think, oh my, these guys have so much more confidence. They know what they're doing. Well, they probably do because they've come through the same pain that you're going through. Reach out, drop them a LinkedIn, look at the websites, go and look for testimonials, go and see if you can find the person's name. They're not going to bite your head off. They're not going to bark at you. The worst they can do is not reply to your email and you go into the next one. But they will reply to you. They will want to encourage you.
Yeah, excellent point. And how has joining a peer group benefited you personally?
Well, I think if you ask my wife, she might tell you a different thing if it's actually benefited me on a personal level, because I attend peer groups and I go away. But how's joining a peer group benefit? It's allowed me to get away from the business and to think. I can't explain how important that is to any business owner who spends all his day in the office with his people or with clients or working out with his accountants and everybody else, all his professional people around him, but to get away and actually think about your business, that is almost priceless. How does it benefit you personally? I think it allows you to grow as a person if you wish to grow. The networking side of it is you realize that everybody out there has the same issues as you have, and that you will have a good point to add when you're speaking to these people. Quite frequent. It's been a very funny thing for me. We had a conversation with some of my colleagues at the last HTG meeting. Even the smallest partner within the group, the smallest company within the group, his comment was, "What do I add to this group?" But the fact is, his experience and his counsel can be just as valuable as the larger players or the larger MSP partner in that room, and we can all learn something from one another.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Good point. That size doesn't matter at all when it comes to peer groups, because each of the challenges are individual and unique, and yeah, worth learning from. Now, we're talking a lot about join a peer group. It's so great. Are there things that MSPs or business owners should consider before joining a peer group, or have a moment of silence and ask certain questions regarding to peer groups before they reach out?
Yes. There's one question I would always ask people before they join a peer group, and that question is commitment. Commitment is the most important thing. If you're going to go to a peer group and you're going to sit all day on your laptop and answer emails or work in your support desk or not be in the room, then don't attend. If you're going to be out with the room, out with the peer group, if you're not willing to share, if you're not willing to actually be cathartic, if you're not willing to be honest in the room, don't go in the room. If you can commit, if you can actually say you want to be there, you want to learn, you want to grow as an individual, and you are going to commit to that peer group, then that's probably a good place to be. And that goes back to my point earlier. Peer groups are not for everyone. Peer groups mean that. It means you're going to be there in a group with your peers and you're going to learn. Commitment means that when you say you're going to get involved in a peer group, be involved. And I have seen many people come along to these groups, and you'll see them all the time. They're sitting in these groups with their laptops open, and they're not there. Well, they may as well not even have left their office. They should have just stayed where they were.
Right. So you've had that sort of negative experience with peer groups. How is that usually handled if you're in a team discussion with someone who's just not participating?
It's probably come across as the angry Scotsman, as everybody tells me sometimes I sound. That's not a negative. That's just being honest. I think if you want to be involved in a peer group, you just have to be prepared to commit to being involved. If it's not right for you, then you're too busy, your mind is already too wound up with what you're doing on your day-to-day business, then maybe the first thing you need to do is go and work out, is this something that you want to be involved in? Because it does take time, it takes resource, it takes money off the bottom end, because you're going to have to pay to go and do this. And yes, these peer groups do cost money. You have to commit logistics, you have to commit to staying away, you're going to have to commit to be away from your business. And that's my point, is that if you're going to do this, and you will get a lot out of it, you've got to be prepared to commit to being in the group.
That also relates to my next point of how much time or financial commitment or logistical commitment do you invest into your peer group involvement? Because I know you're in several, more or less actively.
Yeah, I'm probably extreme at some points. Some people would think, well, why is he involved in so many groups? It does. It does take resource. I will drop peer groups if it's not the right fit. I will drop peer groups. I would drop a peer group if I can't commit, if I don't feel I'm actually giving value and getting value out of it. And A concept which I've had for many years is Go-Giver. And Go-Giver is I want to give within these groups. I would want to be able to contribute, because I believe always is if you are in one of these groups and you're a taker, all you're doing is taking information but you never participate, that's not good. You should be prepared to actually speak up, and everybody's voice is valid. Everybody will have a valid point, and if the point's not valid, you will be told by the peer group anyway. So it's a very cathartic place to be. You mentioned a question earlier. The peer groups keep us honest, and that is very true. But as far as investing in it, I know that as a business owner that if I want to advance my business and to grow my business, I will have to invest in myself. And the investment that I put into peer groups has paid back dividends over the years, and I will continue with it as long as it keeps paying me back more than I feel that I am putting in. So there is a balance, but the investment is time, logistics, and there is a financial investment that you've got to prepare to put into it.
Mm-hmm. I love that you mentioned the Go-Giver, because I know that's very popular among HTG members, and a book that they recommend anyone to read, so definitely look into that. And has anything that you've learned in MSP groups or peer groups, any models or frameworks or just discussions drastically changed how you how you do business, how you structure your company, how you deal with employees, any big sort of switch that went off because of peer groups?
I would honestly say the list is too long, if I was to be quite honest. There's probably a couple. There's probably a couple that really float to the top, and I've met some. This industry is filled with very talented, very charismatic, and people who have to raise their game to grow their business. And I've met some really powerful people that have guided and shaped us along the way. As far and some of these people would be, for example, Paul Dipple from Service Leadership has been an amazing chap to actually listen to over the years and has given great counsel. There are many other, Arnie Bellini from ConnectWise has led the group, led the organisation for many years and has shown great foresight. Arlen Sorensen of HTG is a giant within this industry and shows great counsel to all his HTG colleagues and members, and I pay contribution to all of these and more out there. But as far as points in our business which have really made a difference, there are a couple that probably stand out. One is HTG's five plans, and this is the 5 plans which we are all, as HTG members, are encouraged to follow through, and like business plans, as we all expect, but also a leadership plan, how we will lead our team along to achieve our business goals, a life plan so that we get a balance between life and work, a succession plan or legacy plan for when our future plans for if we are going to exit the business, and the last one is a disaster plan, just in the event of what would we do if we weren't there. So these were a core from HTG, and these I believe have made a big difference to us as a business. I think one other one which I've just had lately, which was almost an epiphany, which I did not come out with this. This came from an individual who was at IT Nation this year, a chap called Ted Garner from IT Weapons up in Toronto, and he came out with an analogy which I am now sharing within the company, and I'm sure it probably resonates with many of the delegates on the call today in the webinar. We often look at our companies as if they're extended families. And as families, we want the best for everybody in the organizations, in our families. But that can also be a very hard analogy to work within your business. And I've seen this time and time again, that when families split up or somebody wants to leave your family, that can be a very hard thing for everybody. And it often is a traumatic point in your within your business. And me personally, I can look back at my business and see the amount of times that people have decided to move on, and I see it as a point that hurts. Ted spoke about changing that and changing it to team. And if you use a team analogy to your business and you use it as a sports team analogy, if you see raw talent, you bring new people into your business, it's like any sports team, a football team, a soccer team, a basketball team. It is great to bring new talent on in your business, and you will want to nurture that, and you want to mentor it, and you want to coach them. And as you see these people growing through your business, it's a great feeling to have good people in your company. So when they come to a point that you may not require, they may want to move on. It's like any league system. You know, if you're in a lower league and maybe somebody wants to move up to the Premier League or the Professional Football League, then as you see these colleagues moving on, you may feel sadness that they move, but you also feel pride that you've built these people up. Now, that analogy was something I took away from IT Nation this year, and I do refer to Ted Garner actually telling that story. I took that back and took it back into my team. That is something that will help me drive my business and drive accountability. I wouldn't have learnt that unless I'd been in these peer groups.
Right. Yeah, I remember us talking about that analogy, and it's definitely been a bit of an epiphany for me as well. Just, yeah, good way of thinking about it. And we, too fast. We already touched upon this a little bit in an earlier question, but more as a summary, what should a business owner consider before joining a peer group? Where would they even start?
Where should they start? There are many peer groups out there. You highlighted a number of them today. Go and work out what it is that you are looking for. If you are a marketing executive, go and look for something, go and look for a peer group which is going to enable you in marketing. If it's sales, maybe you need to go and look at some business networking groups. If it's leadership, maybe you need to go and look at HTG. But work out what it is that you want to achieve from the group that you want to be involved in. That will take a certain amount of research, and you've given some good examples here today. Go and speak to somebody who's involved in those groups. Ask them the questions. Ask them what the commitment is. Try and get a flavour for whether or not this is the right thing for you or not. As I said before, not everybody is in the right frame of mind to join a peer group at the same time. You may have many problems or many other issues which you need to deal with before you have got the time, and time is important, to be able to go and dedicate to being involved in a peer group. That's not an easy thing for me to give counsel, because each individual MSP or business owner or tech lead, marketing individual, they'll know themselves. But procrastinating and saying that you're not going to do it just because it's going to take up some time, well, somebody else is going to take that seat in that peer group, and you maybe have lost an opportunity to grow as a leader, grow as an individual, grow as a business person.
Right. And I would add to that even if you're not sure if a peer group format is for you, if you like learning with other people, and yes, there is usually a financial investment of several hundred to several thousands of dollars a year, start with networking opportunities. There are hundreds
Absolutely.
of networking events for the IT channel in really any area around the world. So just going onto Google and looking up your local events that don't require you to drive or fly out, but still give you an idea of how it would be to mingle with like-minded peers and to exchange ideas. Yeah, might give you a better impression of what a peer group
Absolutely.
would be like.
Get on a webinar like this. Listen to other peer groups. Go online and dig around and find out what's out there.
Perfect. Exactly. So with that, my questions to Austin are done. So if anyone from the audience has anything they would like to clarify or add to the conversation, you can do that now. Of course, you can also email me after the webinar or find Austin on LinkedIn and connect with him. We're both happy to, or can only speak for myself, but happy to clarify anything on the topic. And just something on, support from vendors. In the meantime, while you're trying to figure out or scoping out the peer group market, if you're lost with your marketing, if you're lost with your business strategies, something we're always working on as a vendor is enabling partners to succeed as much as possible with as little effort or time investment on their side as possible. So as an ePolder partner, you have access to so-called playbooks, which are really end-to-end marketing assets and collateral pieces that you can just plug right into your marketing efforts, whether that's email, video, social media marketing. There's lots of content that we produce every quarter, really, to help you with that. So if you're a partner and you're not using this yet, reach out to your account manager, email me. We're all happy to help. All right. As time is running out and I don't see any more questions from the audience, I would just like to thank everyone for your time and your attention. And thank you so much, Austin, for making the time to join this webinar and share your really insightful experience with peer groups. It was great to have you.
Thank you very much, Ariane. It was a pleasure being involved.
Great. All right. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.
Bye.